Welcome everyone. So today's episode, we're diving deep into the divine design of the human experience. I discussed with ARON GOCHIN about a lot of the things that come up for us and why we're here to do who we are, what we're meant to do, as well as our purpose, our drive, what it means to be here, to have this human experience. We're going to dive into a number of things that delve into the consciousness aspect, the bigger picture of things, how things work on a cosmic scale, as well as the individual point of view. We'll begin this segment by diving in currently to a lot of the stuff happening right now, especially with this lunar eclipse of January 2019 taking place. It is a big signifier for a lot of things that are coming along the line. And to discuss that is something that introduces us to this topic of not just what's happening now, but where it's going to take us and the times that we're living in. So without further ado, enjoy the podcast, and here we go. Now, before I bring on ARON, I'd like to dive deep into the current level of astrology. Now, prior to recording, we were having a discussion about the current energies of the time, what people are going through. So I'd like to touch on that quickly, and to begin on that, we'll dive into the moon. With this lunar eclipse in place, we are able to see that this moon is this symbol that is a part of us, as each of us are made of these various aspects of self, and the moon is a representation of the feelings, our close-knit internal self, of things we identify with the home. So we want to dive into the importance of what the moon is, as well as its opposition. For right now, opposing it, we have a collective of the Sun, Mercury, Saturn, and Pluto, all happening in the sector of the sky, which is driving us to bring a lot of change to a lot of the structures and systems that are in place. And this is a long cycle coming together. But to focus more on just the identity of how we relate to the moon, let's take a dive into that. So the moon represents our internal self. When we see the moon in our own charts, that is the representation of the internal body. So there's the light which people see, there's the expression of the rising, but the biggest part of ourselves that people aren't able to see because it's internal to us is what the moon is representing. So the moon hitting this full moon peak, it's not only just about the moon, but it's the moon in Cancer. So you're seeing the moon double its own energy, because Cancer is equivalent to the moon's resonance. It's about the internal self, the home, the family, the things that are important to us, that we connect to, that fill us emotionally and satisfy that self. So when we meet like an opposition, we're pretty much taking how we feel internally and how this emotionally fulfills us, and it provides us with the opposition of where in life do we have to transform. And being at the very edge of near Capricorn with Pluto at hand, you're dealing with this very urge to meet up the opposition. So it's not like we find the solution, we're recognizing what we're going up against and what doesn't work with us. So the whole last cycle, or actually this entire moon cycle, is about letting go what can't be carried forward, so that we can better, direct our resources to be invested in what is going to fulfill us emotionally. And for a lot of people who aren't able to actually get clear with what they want in life, or that there are these challenges coming up, they're more like the birthing pains to just say, hey, remember that thing that you actually do enjoy? You need more of that in your life, rather than trying to go up against the opposition. Because anytime you have an opposition, especially with Pluto and joined by Saturn in that same sign of Capricorn, you're dealing with this big idea of authority, this big idea of being able to restructure the way we go about our lives. And because it's opposing the moon, this is a very external aspect that we're opposing to the internal. As the moon is representing of that internal, we're going to see people that rub up against us. We're going to see structures or authority that try to hold back or might contradict how we feel emotionally. And there's probably a majority of people in the collective who are in positions where they want to change their outcome because it's not matching what they feel internally. They might not have the solutions for it, but I think this is bringing everything to the awareness to really question it. And we got the last 14 days of this moon cycle to wrap things up and phase things in which things start to disintegrate, where we can let go or get clear in terms of how to approach and go from here. And because it's a solar eclipse cycle, we really are looking at a very long-term cycle as well as a short-term cycle of just moon phases. So it has an impact that is a lot greater than we're really able to recognize, as a lot of these effects will start to show off over the coming months rather than the coming days. And one interesting thing about this particular transit is that a lot of limitations are coming up. And these are very much in tune to understanding where Pluto and Saturn are, because Saturn is about structure, it is about limitations, authority, and sometimes we aren't able to fully fulfill everything we wish to do, and sometimes there are going to be blockages or things that say slow down or hold back, and we don't get that pure freedom to explore what we wish to do. If it was the case, these challenges would simply not be the challenges. So it is in our best interest to recognize where our limitations are and to be very truthful and real about where we are and the case of reality. It's not a time for expectations, and where we want to take this is very much able to guide us so that we can work within these limitations the best we can. It requires this level of patience of being able to get clear while also working with what you have. And for my advice, anyone out there during this time is to truly just recognize that if this time is too challenging for you or it's bringing you down, realize that you are the essence of hope. And in this time, we are able to take strides. But with this limitation in place right now, it's only a matter of time before we're able to blossom. And as the year goes by, I think there's a lot of good opportunities we'll be looking forward to. It really is, when you sync with the harmonic nature, you got these cycles, and some of these cycles will support or repel certain resonances. And to be able to align with it is like being able to understand that the river is going to go in this direction, and if you want to travel there, that would be the time to do it. It'd be a lot easier rather than trying to fight going upstream to reach your goal. And that's the beauty of it, because when we try to understand nature or relink to be more harmonious with what is going on and present in nature, we're able to better interpret it. Because if you take the concept that we're here for spiritual growth and we are going through all sorts of stuff, and it's like astrology can allow us to understand what resonances are going on at the moment, and astrology can help us better understand ourselves, our connection with the world, and pretty much show us the curriculum of what lessons are being learned or what challenges are at hand or when's a good time to manifest this. And for many who are even unclear with who they are, astrology can open up and allow them to discover who they are better so they can interact with the world more in tune to who they are. And in most cases, it's all a subconscious level where we might not understand what's going on, but when we hear from an external perspective, let's say you receive a tarot reading that gives insight, or you look into astrology to see the as above, so below aspects, this can assist us to take it into the awareness. It's like a dream. When we remember the dream and we understand the symbolism of the dream, it is now a part of our awareness that we carry forward on the journey. So whatever lessons had to be learned, whatever insight needed to be gained to better assess ourselves, provides that growth for us to take that action and fulfill it. So we meet the universe halfway by providing who we are as a free will choice to the opportunity that is best to come into the present.
In my own personal life, I'm feeling at the moment, like I went to Durban, the city that I've been thinking to move to, and to look for house rentals, and there wasn't really anything, and I wasn't sure if there was something, and I just didn't want to commit, or like I'm having a bit of, like, I'm sort of in limbo at the moment. So it was interesting the astrological, cycle that you're talking about now, especially for me. It's like, so do I sort of, go forward? Do I go ahead into the unknown and take the many risks, whatever? Or do I sort of stay back? And I found myself sort of 1 foot in, 1 foot out type of thing. So if I'm working with the astrological timing of things and resonance of things, then it's almost like I should sort of start making a move to the direction which I've been intending on going towards for a long time and is best for my growth, if you will, if that makes sense.
I think it It does make a lot of sense, and I know you've spoken about it numerous times, and the
Yeah.
whole transition to do it. I know from my own personal last week of like cancer focused notes for astrology, it's pretty much saying to keep options open, to flesh things out, but that you're gonna propagate the proper channels and it's gonna be favored forces of nature. So you're in a position of power to choose and see where to take things. And it's pretty much cautioning you to not get stuck in conflicting agendas that don't really align with who you are or something that you don't want to get stuck planting roots in, especially if you see an opportunity. Because think of it this way, if it is within your awareness and you feel a connection to do it, there is this very deeper sense to better gain insight for it. So to explore that, I think very much is something to take the first steps doing to see what options are available so that you are providing universe that equal intention to say, yes, let's see what doorways are open without trying to restrict the door.
Okay, so it's a bit of push and pull at the same time in a way. I mean,
Hmm.
like if there was something, maybe it was a bit more money than I was intending on, but like it wasn't only that, it was also that I had felt, that I was discovering Durban more so, and I was like, is this just as much as the same as Joburg where I'm currently at? And yes and no. So it was like I was quite disappointed. I've been finding that as well of late, like been quite disappointed with expectations, with whether it's been people, whether it's been certain outcomes or something like that, whether it's been, the direction forward. A lot of the expectations I've been felt quite let down. It's not as fruitful or as rich. Looking forward to something where you're going to get something of depth or richness or resonance from or connect, whatever it may be, and that not happening. And so that was the same thing that I felt with Durban. So I'm not sure if I should wait it out just a little bit, see if the energy changes, see what opens up, see what other doors sort of close, and whatever it is. But at the moment, I do feel like I'm a bit in limbo, and it's hard to sort of make a firm decision, about anything in the meantime, So I don't know. It's interesting.
It is important that right now, like, you don't have to commit. It's more about getting clear with yourself, because when you're clear with yourself, you understand what you want it to provide you. So instead of saying, all right, I want this city to provide that new opportunity, when in reality the perception of seeing that city as the answer might not be the direct route you want to take, but instead you want to see, okay, what do I want in my environment? Where do I want my connections? Where do I want to feel personally at home? Where do I want to see myself a couple years from now, regardless of location? What is it that I want around me? Where do I want to connect? Where do I want to build it? And that's more of a focus. For example, even if you don't move into a city or you move on just to the outskirts of the city or something like that, where you're not too far away from being able to get the resources you want, but at the same time, too, you're also halfway into being able to live in your own self, live in the environment you wish to, whether you want um, more nature or more whatever it is that you want to fulfill yourself with or be a part of. So it's not just stuck to dealing with just city life, but what you want to develop. And to see this moment, it really is bring it to awareness so that we can start taking the steps. And it all falls into place because it's like a roadmap. We understand our goal, but to take each step, it's not going to happen all in a single day. We'll have to figure out the things, we'll have to close any loose ends that can be wrapped up. And I think the more we're able to let go, the more I think we open up to bring that new experience into being.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, and it's also I think what you're saying at the same time is that don't limit yourself. Don't think too
Hmm.
small. Don't box
Yes.
yourself in, and don't choose from the buffet of of life, or options, or move in that direction. Don't feel like a scarcity in regards to your decision making. Rather come from a feeling of abundance, if you will. Maybe I need to be a bit more patient, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it does require a little patience because it doesn't happen overnight. And when you're dealing with anything coming to awareness through a lunar eclipse, especially something that's like a supermoon, you're dealing with very long terms because I don't believe we'll have another one until I think December of this coming year. So between now and then, you got this gap of period where you're going to see transformation take place. And
Mm.
if you given like let's say 11 months of a gap, you're not going to see maybe the first month get the result you want, but you might gain a little clarity. You might put the effort in what you have power to take part in. So whether it's sizing down, or let's say you want to pursue more audio work, or something that's more in tune to what you want to welcome into your life. And in a way, the integration of it and the clarity of what you already have at hand will, I think, amplify the blessings you have to invite more of it in. And as those synchronicities start to show, it will provide you the direction to go. But I think there's always a time and place. So sometimes, like, where we are is kind of where we need to be, and what we gain out of it. It's like we understand the next course, but we still got to wrap up this one.
Yeah, yeah. And I also like what you said in regards to the fact that you should try and orientate your decisions and your choices and your way forward should be to yourself, and what is the most suiting to yourself and what is the most potential for growth or something. You're seeing what is a more favorable environment, what is a more favorable occupation, what is a more favorable hobby or art that you want to kind of do. What is it that's ringing your bell at that time? What is it that's on the highest priority that comes more naturally or comes more of a flow? I mean, when you talk about audio recording as such, I mean, for myself, I've just felt like the last couple of days I've been, it's just been pouring out. I've been making quite a number of videos. I'm still going to upload them. I mean, from all different genres in a way. But it's, so it feels like I'm sort of coming of my own in that way and finding my own sort of niche and sort of platform in a sense to sort of move forward in a way. Like I can definitely see how things that were holding me back, certain self-doubts or insecurities, are no longer sort of valid or have any much strength to them. Like before, I think I was a lot more concerned about being outright sort of raw and emotional about certain things that I might, encounter in the day that most people would, not want to talk about or find unpleasant. And I'd feel that that's not playing to the audience or whatever, like I'm saying, I did a video, uploaded, which was quite hectic, but I felt like I needed to honor the way that I was feeling and uploaded that video, although I felt like maybe it was a bit heavy, so taking into consideration my viewers, but also at the same time I'm saying, well, if I can handle this, then so can you, and it's important, because really I was talking about like the vacant look in their eyes. That was the title of the video. And it's a very heavy one. It's like I've also found for myself more so, sorry, then we'll get into the recording. I just found for myself more so that that like one of my places is actually talking about the things that we are trying to sort of not look at.
Yes, that's something I've always seen with your work, because it comes up to you naturally, and if it's in your awareness, only you can be you more than anyone else ever could be. And if you have the opportunity to speak on it, then I think that is the opportunity to share that awareness into the world, for others to become aware of it, to others to hear something and give words to something that they never fully understood or weren't able to make the connection to represent. And they can see how relatable that is, and to see that raw authenticness, it touches them on a soul level. It's not just what they want to hear, it's kind of what universes brings them to hear. And that's the important message, and I see that happen a lot with what you actually upload and share into the world.
Yeah, so for myself, it's like before, I'll tell you, with my mother, I had like a deep conversation with her today, and like I felt that I needed to really bring to her awareness certain delusions that she's having. And it wasn't from, and I know her, and I mean, I have her best interest at heart, so it's not I'm not trying to be smarter than or judgmental or be uncaring or whatever it is, or I was blunt with her because I felt that it was needed to be blunt. And I said the truth stings and it hurts. But if you can see it, it can set you free. I mean, she just saw one truth today that, I mean, she's been living with an insecurity for many years. And today she sort of finally saw it, that, this thing is an illusion. It's like, and she saw it, and it was wonderful. And I said, okay, let's do the next one, and I felt that she was ready for it. But what I'm saying for myself was that, at times I felt like, okay, don't talk about these things. You're stepping on people's toes, or you're bringing to, like, you're opening Pandora's box here for some people. You're talking about like the real sort of trouble that we are in as human beings, and you're not sort of sugarcoating it with the fact, well, it's all, I mean, I do mention at the same time that it's all meant to be, and it's all part and parcel of where we are going, and it's all exactly arriving on time, how it should be, whatever. I take a kind of a spiritual approach, but also a very humanistic approach. It's like, folks, this shit is real, and it's heavy, and we're living in, because I find the more that I deny that to myself, the more confused I am about the world that I live in. The more accurate I can be about how sort of desperate the times that we live in, the more empowering it is to me. And that's my message before, where I felt like, afraid to speak up and share it. But now I'm feeling that it's a responsibility. And you know what? Exactly what you were saying. Those who can sort of handle it, and those that the universe brings towards it, then that's the message for them. For others. And but before, I would be too considerate for other people. I don't want to be offensive. I don't want to, make them think too much or bring something that they can't handle, something too heavy for them. But that's been a change for me. And so, in the way that I'm kind of moving forward, is I'm sort of, not putting any punches. I think that's the saying. I'm not going to be sort of concerned about stepping on other people's toes. I'm not going to be disrespectful, obviously, but I think what we really need in the times that we're living in is the truth more than anything else. No matter how ugly it is, we really need to see it. And I'm also speaking about that because I did a reply to a comment that somebody left on my video, and I want to upload it. And I was concerned a little bit about, like, well, I'm not shaming the individual, this guy that left the comment, but it was almost like he felt that I have a very grim mindset, and he felt that I'm being very judgmental. That's what he said in the comment on the video, the vacant look in their eyes or something. And so I replied in an audio, and then I felt like maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should just, say something small in the comment section. But then I thought, no, I need to address certain things. Not that he was attacking me, but I felt like he wasn't being realistic a lot of the time in what he was saying, and understanding what my message was about, right? And I'm not trying to try and justify or explain myself. I'm not trying to, do that. I'm just saying that this is a reality for me, and I'm simply sharing my experiences. And if it
Yes,
resonates, it
yes.
resonates. That kind of thing. So,
That's where we speak from too, our experiences. So I think like the statement that you're building off of is that when we have wounds and people are unaware they have a wound, bringing attention to the wound provides opportunity to begin stages of healing so that they are aware of it and they can begin treating it. And it might not happen overnight for everyone, but that is the introduction to be able to say, all right, now I'm aware this wound exists. What do you do about it?
right.
And the discussion to bring that out there is that clarity. We're right now, like, as mentioned earlier with astrological transits when we were discussing that, is that we have both Saturn and Pluto in this Capricorn sector of the sky. Now, we also have the Sun currently there and Mercury, which makes this time very energetic for a lot of the expressions we want to take out and share with the world. And it's going to dig into not only the structures that have been so long rooted in society, but it's going to bring in over the next couple of years these huge transformational shifts, whether people want to see it within themselves or if the environment's going to shake them up so they actually have to take action. It's coming to the surface, and it's a right place, right time. And as we're moving forward with this literally is reinventing each and every single individual who comes in contact to hear the message, to receive it into awareness, to allow that seed that has just planted with them and allow it to grow. And that can grow into something amazing, which sets them down on a path that is going to be better fit for them, or at least better fit for them to understand themselves, so that whatever does come their way is going to be best handled in an approach where they can honor their authentic selves rather than to sacrifice it in a means to go up against what society expectations are or to go against the conformist point of view. And it's okay to stand on that outskirt because that what gives us new experiences, new understandings, new ways to appreciate the world. It's someone who travels and realizes how vast and beautiful the world is in all the beauty of nature that has to offer, or someone seeing the bigger picture so that they gain a new appreciation for the little sliver that they've chose to either limit themselves or only focus on. And that's I think, is universe's way of providing that shift into reality through the individuals.
Yeah. So exactly. Well, coming back to what you're just saying now as well is by actually seeing, let's say, for example, what the wound is, then we can start healing it. If we can see where we are blinded or what we are unaware of, and that which we become conscious of, we can obviously, utilize and better align ourselves and sort ourselves out. I mean, I was doing a talk. I'm uploading it at the moment. Like I was saying, that sometimes I think we spend there's too much effort, well, too much attention on the idea of the now. Okay, and sort of the now is sort of the saving grace, and almost if you can find yourself in the now or be in the now completely, then that's where sort of the sweet spot is, and it's all good and fine and dandy and type of thing, and not only that, but if you realize that the past is the past and it doesn't exist anymore, and let sleeping dogs lie, sort of just and I mean talking about this and saying no, that's not the case. Like the present is made up of the past. There's no question about it. And the past, what I'm saying is that a lot of the wounds, a lot of the causes come from the past and the symptoms are now. But dealing with the symptoms, you're not actually getting to the cause of the problem. So, for example, let's say somebody's an alcoholic, right? They're looking at the fact that they're an alcoholic now. And if they be in the now and to realize that they're an alcoholic and say, well, maybe I'm just not going to be an alcoholic in the now. What I'm saying is that obviously the alcoholism started a long time ago, let's say, from a trauma, from a childhood trauma, let's just say, or something or other. I don't know. I mean, we know we're conditioned and we're programmed and we're socially engineered from a very young age, and we set on a path which is in the wrong direction, which is not in alignment to who we are, not really connecting to true spirit in a sense. I mean, we're given a false religion or sort of as an operating system that is not sufficient and really gets us confused about what spirit is, what nature is, what God is, or whatever it is. I think we're trying our best to hide away, if you will, and find all these techniques to try and numb, I would say, the discomfort.
We are connected to our past, and a lot of the things we went through, be it trauma or just long habitual habits, they carry on with us like baggage, and we carry that baggage in the present. But the thing
Yeah,
is, when you become aware that in that present moment you are carrying this baggage, as soon as you're able to take action there, only in that present moment, then you
that's right.
begin to shift it and utilize the past as a learning tool, a lesson
That's right.
to appreciate where we're coming from, to appreciate, all right, I understand how I got into this position. Now I
Right.
can better understand how to get myself out of here. My foot's in the
Right.
mud, it's stuck, but now that if I lift my leg and use all my effort towards it, it's going to take me out. And that first step is just the start to take me on the journey where I'm meant to be.
There you go. That's it. That's right. I'm not saying that the now is where we take action, but the only way we can take action is by understanding how we got
Hmm.
into the present moment. Yes, there is the mystical present moment of just there's everything happening right now. I remember I give the analogy of a river, and I was saying that a river is always flowing, and the river is made up by with the start of the river. I mean it's all one stream in a way, and our lives are also one stream in a sense, and we can't just cut off the stream at one point and say this is the only thing that exists. We connected in we really are connected into the past, whether we like to, on a human level and a psychological level. We are connected into the past, and we cannot deny it. We can't just say the past is the past, bury the past, let sleeping dogs lie, and we through with the past, and it's just be here now. And my point, so I'm just saying this again, is that right, I find that sometimes it's a spiritual bypassing by, let's just say, there is only the now, and everything else doesn't really matter. And I'm saying that's the biggest cop out. Like, I mean,
Yes.
it's the biggest cop out, and I don't understand. I mean, we really, it's just so much talk on the moment of the now as being the salvation point, and if you can quieten the mind, this is obviously more of an Eastern, which has been messed up by interpretation from the West a lot
Yes,
of the time,
yes.
I think. But it's like if you can be here now, if you can quiet the mind, then you can find a sense of space and stillness and inner calmness and whatever it is that you find, and that's all there is to it. And I'm like, that is so that is so short-sighted and so dangerous to come up with as a concept. And what I'm saying is that I think there's a whole lot of these concepts that are going around right now without us even knowing, that is really not enabling us to see what's really going on and to be really engaged with the real deep experience of life, whether it be unpleasant or pleasant. I mean, like, in other words, another thing is that we become so privileged. We don't realize how privileged that we are. Like, if the internet goes down for 1 minute, it's a crisis. If our coffee is not, hot enough, then it's like, well, you have to throw the whole cup away. It's like we've been so, what I'm saying, spoiled by life and privileged in a way, and especially with a lot of these sort of spiritual ideas, I would say. I don't know why I'm getting to this whole thing, but all these spiritual ideas that we don't realize that life is tough and life is brutal and life will kick your ass if you're not in alignment with what's going on, and if you're not bringing your strength forward, if you're not being, if you're not empowering yourself, just like what you're saying with astrology's bringing you the fight. It's bringing the fight to your front door, and it's saying, if you open the door and you're willing to fight the fight, which is not really a fight, I'm saying the opportunity, if you're willing to take it on, it will teach you and it will grow. It'll grow you, but it might not be easy and it might not be pleasant. And what I'm saying is that, I mean, I don't know. I think even in this conscious groups or whatever it is, there's a very much a very slack attitude, and a very much that life is really beautiful at the end of the day, which it is. But it's also at the same time pretty darn nasty and ugly, and it'll take you down if you're not aware of it.
And you're highlighting something that I think needs to be more heard in the world, because what we're seeing as being the present moment, be here and only here, is almost like the religious honoring of the initial principle that is supposed to represent. And being in the present is more about being receptive to receive universe, so that we become and receive the resonances and the insight of intuition, guidance of whatever just sparks inside our awareness, so that we can move forward. But we cannot honor the present without honoring that we are here due to where we've come from. And we cannot just put everything in rose colored glasses. I think there's both light and dark in the world, and the dark might not be the best for anybody, but there's a time and place for that to exist just as much. There's this divine balance that we don't normally see, and it takes that reflection, be it dreams, astrology, experience, our connection to the universe, where we've come from, the path that happens, and these concepts, they provide this validation in a synchronistic manner, so that the awareness is once again connected to see that there is a divine design. And what has come before and what is in the present is shaping to help allow it to blossom like a flower. It's not meant to be at a specific format, it's meant to be adaptable due to the situations. And every single free will choice that's contributed to it is a part of that unraveling. And it's a complex nature to see how all of this is all fit together. But no matter where you dive into, at the end of the day, where you focus on the consciousness, be it the frequencies, be it astrology, meditation, psychedelics, looking into ancient cultures, dreams, or just general understanding, you're dealing with the idea that consciousness is the route to being able to solve the solutions of where we come from in the past, or the situations in which the past have pitted us in. And as we develop that, we're able to manage what gets carried forward. And like you've stated, the trauma, the emotional baggage, this is carried in the present and is a part of what we allow us to become, because we hold on to it, and thus it shows itself to the surface at times, or it provides these habitual points of views which we carry forward. And we choose to do that subconsciously, but at the state to recognize, all right, if you lighten your load, you can provide more stamina and strength where it matters, so that you have this sustainable soul language that's very authentic and it honors who we are. And to understate that is nowhere near enough to say that where we are going is no different than where we are in the past, like the stream. It's a
Mm.
part of this big unraveling, but your contribution to it, where you stand as the individual, can only be best assessed by understanding the self, because you'll be aware of your environment, and you can either work against it or with it. And to understand the self allows you to choose that consciously rather than being put into situations that are going to provide these lessons or hard roots that make it impactful so that a reflection can be formed through the self. And these moments of opportunity, they do come from the present, but that present is merely the view. It's the sight. It's where we're looking at, less part of what has been done, because where we are seeing is no differently than the journey itself. It's never the destination, but how we get there.
With that, I start thinking that we have these words. Okay, on the one hand, like we have spirituality. Okay, let's say, and we have psychology on the other hand, and spirituality seems to be more with the soul, if you will. Psychology seems to be with more of the self. And I suppose one of the things that we don't appreciate enough is that I find that a lot of people will spend more time on the spiritual soul side of things, if you will, or more on the spiritual, not really speaking about the soul, but more on the spiritual side. Like this, the moment of the now, let's say, is a spiritual idea, is that, okay, everything is infinite in a way, and we're dreaming that there is such a thing as time and duration of time. We've been manifested into this reality, into this physical reality, but in truth, our higher being resides in a place beyond time and space, right? So it's beyond the psychology. That's what I'm saying. And I think some people tap into that idea that, well, this is what I think you see the New Age is a lot about. In my opinion, it's working more on the spiritual side of things where you don't carry the baggage, because on the spiritual side of things, there is no ego, right? I mean, it's a tool, but it's a tool for the human being. And what I think I'm also trying to say is that we imbalance a lot of the time, because I'm saying, I don't know, I just find that there's a lot of spirituality going around and not enough psychology. There's not enough humanness. In other words, there's not enough saying, okay, what are my traumas? That's why I like Dr. Gabor Mate. I like his ideas and his psychology on the idea of traumas. And he's basically saying we are completely made up from of our past, from the human psychological point of view. But it's on the spiritual side, an astrologist will say, no, we also influenced massively by the time of what cycle we were born into, where was the moon, where was the sun, all the planets and stars, where was that alive. Taking it even further, you always have also an astrological self. I like to spend more time on the humanness, I suppose, and then secondary, the spiritual side of things. Because I don't think you can really advance spiritually or move towards source. So what I'm saying is that I like to have an even balance, and that's what my channel is about. That's what my sort of message is about. It's the messiness of being in the human body. It's my raw experience of what I'm seeing, what I'm observing, and how it feels to me, right? And that's what I'm kind of sharing, not just from a spiritual standpoint. Because sometimes I feel maybe I should be more spiritual. Maybe I should talk more about the times that we are in, and for myself, what does that mean? I mean, are we at the end of human history? Are we metamorphosizing into something of more of an angelic type of nature? Are we moving into a fifth dimension, if you will, type of thing? Are we going to be, transported into who knows what, whatever it may be, that kind of idea, the shift that's going on here. I mean, some people, talk about a physical shift. I mean, going extinct. Other people talk about a transformation, a transmutation, if you will, whatever it is. So there's a lot going on, which is very exciting. I mean, so that's what my idea. I like to focus more on the human side, the creativity side, the imagination side, the self side of things. But the question is, what are we doing here? Do you know what I
That's the
mean?
beauty of it, because I think to receive growth and go through growth, we have to have challenges, we have to have imperfections, we have to be able to not just have the challenge itself, but to recognize that the uniqueness that we have to go through is not only helping us to understand the raw, authentic self, but it's a part of how we can stand in that raw, authentic self to provide others to see that that is possible. And it doesn't have to be spiritual, because the human experience is why we're here to begin with.
Yeah, it can be guided. Definitely, I mean, spiritual is certainly involved in it's all like you said, it's all the macro and the micro, and it's all interlinked on the same kind of level. But that's one level, saying, well, what's my purpose, right?
Mhm.
What am I waking up to do? What am I waking up for? Okay, what am I waking up for? and what I'm saying is that I think every individual who's on this journey needs to know what they're waking up for, and not just as a matter of, well, frickin' hell, I'm riding out the storm, type of thing, or I'm just
Mhm.
day by day I'm waking up, and I'm even talking about conscious people or whatever that's on this journey. It's like, well, what are you doing it for? Is it just because you're part of this river and it's just guiding and it's taking you where you went? Like, what is it that you want from it? And what is it, that it's doing for you? And what are you a part of at the same time? I mean, on a very personal level, what are you a part of? I guess you're part of the human race. Okay, fine. But on an intimate level, like, what do you think? For the individual, what do you think it's all about for you? I mean, and so your answer was growth. That we're here to grow.
Mhm.
We're here to evolve. And then the next question can come in and say, what for? This is very basic. I mean, these are very basic questions. This is like, step one, but I think it's so overlooked.
It's a very philosophical approach to it, and especially as we highlight, because on the very nature of it, we're here to be. It's the individual experience itself, more like universe bringing in the idea, let's have the opportunity of what ifs to come together. So if each individual has their own uniqueness, I think everyone can answer that differently. To take out the human experience, just to reconnect it to it, if I take the astrology of something, it can show us that we are a mentality, we are the source of light, we are these feelings, we are our drive force, our values, our compassions, how we connect with the world, how we are structured in life, what we're guided to transform, and what we're open to dream of and take us into what we are personally connected to. And when everyone has their own unique path, it introduces that divine design where the individual can only answer that for themselves of why they're there, what they're doing, because their unique makeup, they can only be them, and they understand themselves unlike anyone else ever could. And if anyone else tried to be someone else, it would only sacrifice the opportunity for something to be by masking it in the facade or holding it back. But to let light shine, it's not a matter of why it shines, it just does.
I mean, on the one hand, I was thinking about this question the other day, and I thought to myself, we're making our way home, you know. I mean, that's what Ram Dass basically says. We're walking each other home. What we are doing is that we're looking to sort of reconnect with the source, in a sense. Yeah, we've been removed from it in a way. I mean, depending on how you look at it, and we're making our way back. That's one way of looking at it. But while we are making our way back, the way we make our way back is it's an individual journey, just exactly what you're saying. And you bringing out with individual when the individual is present and in the beingness, then the fruits will arrive. I mean, the creativity, the imagination will come forth, the kindness will come forth, the understanding, whatever it may be. You start to flower and blossom and whatever. But within, by being the individual. Right, so like we all have a common goal, let's say, of returning home, even though we know it or we don't know it. But on the way of that journey, it's like, well, how are you going to dance all the way there? What kind
Yeah.
of performance are you going to give it, before you get there? I mean, whether it takes a lifetime, which it does, it takes many, many lifetimes to do. You reincarnate again, and so what can you? And that's what I think we get to do, and it's growth. It's growth. We're finding that potential that lies within. That needs to be unfolded and uncovered, and that's, if we can say, the divine potential, not just our potential, but it's a divine potential or divine plan that is part of what we are a part of, or that we are engaged in, whether we are aware of it or not. What I'm saying is that you're removing yourself from a tribal mentality by saying on an individual level, okay, because this is what I'm saying, it's taking responsibility for what is your doing, what is your being, I mean, and getting into the detail of that, like, what is your worth, what is your value, type of thing, from the psychological, from the philosophical, from the astrological, whatever it is, that if you can, fine point, make it so intimate that you realize that it's really all about you. It's all about you, no matter how that sounds grandiose, but it's not, because it's ultimately, it has to be about you. I mean, me, Aaron, and you, Eric, and whoever else is out there. And we're doing it for ourselves. Because if it's for anybody else, first and foremost, then you're not going to be working on yourself. You're going to be working on neglecting yourself. That's it. It's coming down to the absolute personal. And then you're taking responsibility. Because if you have to answer those questions, that means that you're alive. That means like, oh, okay, I'm an employee of the divine, I'm part of a great plan here. I have a responsibility to fulfill, and the stage has been set for me, and for me alone, first and foremost, and then for everybody else. Like what you were saying, the more that you are aligned with who you are and your true being and what you are about, and you are able to hold all of these concepts or just these experiences in your mind of not just going back home, but radiating your essence into being or materialism, or be, your, like I'm saying, on all levels, on the psychological, on the philosophical, the spiritual, whatever it is, when you are walking that path, the fruits of your labor are nourishment to everybody else around you, inevitably, so it's so important, this. It's like I'm saying, we don't take life, I'm saying, on an individual seriously enough, I don't think. I think we're scared to actually do that, because I think we would rather piss and moan, I'm saying, and feel victimized, and have a story, a narrative, which holds us back. We are so identified with it, type of thing. I mean, where the past really owns us as well. I had a shitty childhood, and I was abandoned or something like that. So now I have the right to sort of self-destruct and be an alcoholic and be a narcissist or whatever. I have that excuse to do that. And instead of actually doing that healing and letting go of the narrative and the story and the identification, right? And not the identification to almost, well, I'm just a being, of spiritual being type of thing. No, you're also a spiritual being in a human body, and you have a name, and you have a sex, and it's been orchestrated for you from the beginning. Like when I think about this, and I'll end off on what I'm saying now, like when I think about the fact that if we did have previous lives, and the very fact that I could have been a woman named Sandra, okay, which is pretty darn far out. When I was playing Sandra, this is bizarre, it wasn't unusual for me to play. It was unusual, let's say, if I was aware enough of being a spirit in a human body, right, who dreams at night and has this imagination and has different selves and personalities to them or whatever else. That's existential. That's like, okay, that's a really, quite unusual. It's quite a bizarre, reality to find ourselves in called life. But further and foremost, as an individual named Sandra, who lives in Connecticut, who's 32 years old, who's, a mother of 2 kids or something like that, it's like, how did you get comfortable enough to feel Sandra? To feel Sandra, if you know that you're not Sandra. It's like, how have we become comfortable enough to feel like Aaron? Right? Who knows his body, who knows he's a male, who, knows himself a bit more so. So do you see what I'm saying? It's like we meshed into our roles, if you will. We meshed into, through upbringing, through our education, through language, through whatever it might be, through culture. In a way, we meshed into a very, very realistic narrative, a realistic identity, plot, if you will, script, if you will, for this lifetime. And that's far out. And so what I'm saying is that I think sometimes we should wear the personality and our identities very loosely. And we should get, and loose enough, right, that we're not so identified, if you will, that we can get more in touch with our true purpose that has been from our very first incarnation, let's say, which happened maybe, 10 lifetimes ago. In other words, we are on this trajectory, we are on this path, we are on this destiny that's taking lifetimes, in a way, through all these different phenomenal characters. I mean, that's how far out I see it, and that's how big of a game that we're involved in, if you will. So I suppose what I'm saying here in the same time is that it's all about what we're speaking about, but again, making your own story, not just your story, but your own being, taking it so damn seriously and so of the highest of value that eventually when your time has come where you maybe fulfill what it is that you need to fulfill, you've earned your stripes as a human being, in a spirit, and you finally return home, that you do it with all of this experience and all of this knowledge and all of this wisdom and all of this love that you and support that you've given to others as well, and the impact that you've made over your lifetime, and you return home feeling accomplished. I'm saying feeling accomplished. Like we underestimate what it means to feel accomplished. We think that accomplishment is, the salary that you get at the end of the day, or accomplishment because you got the new iPhone, or accomplishment because you did 3 hours of meditation or 3 hours of yoga every day for a month, which is great. But accomplishment of self transformation over the times, or whatever it is, through the whole eons of to finally return home with all that you have become and all that you have done.
It's making a lot of sense because it's as you've stated, it is the state of being, and we all have this unique flavor of who we are, and we're made of all these components that create that flavor, which is why if only you can be you, and you wouldn't be who you are unless you were you. And in that the case, it's like mint trying to be basil. You want to mask a flavor, you want to be something else, but at the end of the day, if you're mint, be that flavor,
That's it.
because you will bring that out. That dish that you will contribute will strengthen because of the contribution of that uniqueness that comes forth from it. It's not meant to be basil, it's meant to be mint. And we can take a portion of who we are and where we're coming from because it is the very nature of us that what we're made up of, even the traumas we go through, the hardships. In astrology, there is this asteroid Chiron that is seen as the wounded healer that provides us this hardship in the past growing up so that we can be in a better position to go through that, to have an appreciation more than someone who hasn't gone through that trauma, to know that this is the case by experience, not by being told, not by thinking that this is a standard set by someone else, by actual experience of what we walk through and bring out into the world. And there is ups and downs. There's very multi-dimensional aspects of how we can take on the world. But at the end of the day, where you are and who you are, when you can get clear with that, then your path forward is to honor that authentic self, honor who you are. In my path personally, I recognize that I'm here to be an artist, and to honor what I do and choose to do is by my act of doing it provides me that being in the present moment. It's not that I need to force myself to be there. It's by doing and being who I am that provides that all on its own. It's sustainable because it's self-generating. Instead of being this multi-resource facade to provide this outlook, it's this authentic, raw realness. And whether we are able to interpret that at a soul level, that we just recognize that when someone is on that path, they're able to send out this resonance that is so unique based off that being alone, that that flavor of being came into the universe to exist, to see that what if potential, and to allow that to grow. If we do not nurture that potential, all we do is bury that seed where it cannot receive the nutrients to go out into the world and allow that what if to blossom through our being. And we have this unique flavor, but it's up to us to bring that out, to contribute that into the dish that is currently happening, whether we're a part of a team, collective, or just a general wave of sharing our interactions with others, where it can provide someone else insight, or it can provide our flavor for someone else to receive something, to discover their own flavor. And those differences that set us apart aren't meant to divide us, but to show us that each of us are not only on our own journey, but where we are able to share who we are into the world is going to provide a very natural, organic, and harmonic growth, not just for ourselves, but for every single instance we interact with.
Yeah. And that's it. And the thing is that, again, in order to be a friend to the self, a lover to the self, I mean, I think it was Oscar Wilde who said the deepest and intense and romantic relationship you'll ever have is with the self. At the same time, I think what I'm also trying to say and what we're discussing here is to start thinking more on a multi-dimensional level, and not just on a one-dimensional level. Like, I mean, in a way, sometimes I think that, like I was speaking to a family member the other day, and they were saying that they were like sort of not shameful at all about it. They were kind of saying, well, I go to gym to look big, so like the ladies can sort of look big, and I sort of have this impression that I'm a big dude, so like don't mess with me type of thing. And I was saying, so you don't do any of it for health? It's like, what do you mean for health? I do it for appearances. I do it for validation. I mean, he wasn't saying this, but obviously I worked out that they're doing it for validation, and they're not doing it for the right causes. And I think that's one dimensional. What I'm saying. And I think also sometimes on the sort of growth path that we find ourselves on, a lot of people are doing it on a very one-dimensional level, which is fine. I mean, I'm just pointing this out, that I think that they do it more for show and more for like an identity in a way, than rather than understanding the multidimensional layers that you're involved in. What I'm saying is that, like, you're not just doing it for yourself or for the, you're not obviously not doing it from an identity point of view or from a superficial point of view. This stuff goes deep. And what I'm saying is that you're doing it from a universal point of view. You're doing it as every human being has come onto this planet and has died in the past, in this servitude. That we are in service of something much greater and higher. We are in relationship, again, not just with the planet and the stars. Because, well, essentially, I mean, they say that God is everything is God, It's all one. Okay, if we could understand that, we would have our minds blown, and we'd be in a lot of trouble, because we wouldn't be able to manage to get to do our laundry with that sort of deep awareness, if you will. But what I'm saying is that I just feel that a lot of people feel that they're slugging it on their own, and I talk about loneliness a lot of the time, and that's true on a human level. There's no question about it. But I mean, on a multidimensional level, I don't think you can be alone. I think that you are guided and you are aided and you are assisted, and the universe knows your thoughts, knows what you're thinking. They say it's so close to you, like that God is so close. We think we have this impression again. I mean, because we indoctrinated into it that God is in the sky or something, and that hell is down below and heaven is up above or something. We use these analogies in a way, but sometimes we get stuck on the images. We don't realize that God is, they say, is at the turn of your cheek, basically. He's right there, like it's immediate type of thing. And the problem is that we don't live like that. And I tell you why. So this is my point that I'm trying to come to, is that because we're still working with the ego in the driver's seat, and the ego is telling us that there's nothing special about you. I mean, this is also the image that, the self, this is where the healing needs to come in, because a lot of us were told that we have nothing to offer. Right, we have nothing special about us. And you shouldn't look at yourself in a very sort of divine way or graceful way, type of thing, or that, whatever. I mean, for myself, if you wanted like God's love, the way that I was raised, or affection or attention, is that you had to absolutely serve Him, and again, Him in a strong way. It was like you have to do His laws in order for Him to not even burn you at the stake, almost, or whatever it is. And it's like we don't realize that how beautiful we really are. I mean, McKenna says in one of his quotes that the alchemist said that man is not not lower than the angels, but higher than the angels. That man is referred to as God's brother. I mean, that's how divine we really are and how saintly we really are. And the pain that we have is that we feel like we're wretched individuals. Deep down, how many people just think that they are such losers, not just in comparison to culture or society? Maybe they're not a millionaire, maybe they don't look like Justin Bieber or sing like him, or something. Even for the youngsters, how much we do not realize that our own individuality and our own soul vibration, or whatever it is, or self vibration, is so unique, is so divine, is so full of light, that we have no idea about. Again, because there's something which is causing the pain and again the separation. This is what it is. We are separated, and when we are separated, then there's the mind. When we're separated, then there's the identity. And, but not in a healthy way. I'm saying not to get rid of your identity completely, to wear your identity loosely, in a sense, don't let it be squeezing you, in a sense. And so and that's it. Again, it's not our darkness that we're most afraid of, it's our light. And it's not just our light, but it's the light that we are connected to at every given moment of every breath that we take. To try and get in touch with that, I think is what also this process is about, is connecting from such a primate level, because animals can't do this. It's only human beings, in a way, that can connect with and remove the separation. Animals are not separated. They haven't got egos. Man and woman or humans are separated. And so the separation is the trauma, if you ask me. And the ego is born out of the trauma. And the ego is saying, okay, look, you're a lost fart here, blowing in the wind. I'll get everything together. I'll work it out, right? And how does the ego work in a way, to a degree, is that it works on external validation. It works on external validation, and that's it. There's no inner validation. In other words, coming back to what I was saying, even about the gym, doing spiritual gym, let's say, it's not about so that other people can validate your spirituality or your levels of spirituality. It's that you in yourself feel accomplished, that you feel in yourself that you are strengthened, right, on your own efforts, not needing the validation of others. If you get the recognition or you get the respect, that's beautiful. But in this world, what I have found in my own spiritual gym that I'd like to think I'm doing, in my own personal, environment, to my own proximity, it's not seen. People do. What I'm saying is that we give each other such poor reflections. Another thing that Oscar Wilde says, he says, never love anybody who treats you ordinary. And that's the thing. It's like we see each other as ordinary, and we see ourselves as ordinary. And so again, by looking for the validation from others, we don't realize how validated we are by the divine. And again, that's too much of a tall order. That's too much light to penetrate a very, very sort of disconnected and shriveled up heart space, if you will. And I think, that's what the ayahuasca experience once showed me. So I'm going on here, but it was basically, at the end of the whole experience, it felt like there was heart, it was heart surgery being performed on me, but in a way that my chest was being pried open, like with some kind of instruments, surgical instruments. Like literally my rib cage was being opened up, and this light was just pouring into it, and it was so beautiful, but it was so overwhelming, and it was so it was beautiful. It was such a mixed feeling, but I felt in a way I have no space for this. I don't know how to occupy. I don't know where to make space for all this light that there is. So there was almost a pain in a way that myself had shriveled down into such a small capacity, or such a small vessel, to be able to hold such large light. And what I'm saying is that part of our journey that we are on is to create a large enough vessel, a large enough container, the self, that can hold the space of the divine.
So here, I'll bring in an analogy that relates this to nature. So you have the sun and it's shining, and you have the ocean. Now you can have the sun shine on the ocean to reveal itself, in which case one can appreciate, wow, these waves, these tides, they're beautiful. This is the ocean. This is how I identify with the ocean. But as that light penetrates deep, it goes a lot further down than just the surface. Not everyone gets to explore that, but it's rich with life. And not just any life, very different, diverse forms of life. And they all exist at the different levels. How we're able to explore that. For example, the individual who wants to go to the gym, they might identify with themselves that they have all this energy they want to put towards it, or they might actually have this drive force which attracts them to want to work out or something like that. And as they mask it at a surface level, it might just appear to be, all right, this is my surface level approach to it. But as they understand themselves, they're able to understand the depth of why the tides exist in the first place. And that gives us that opportunity to recognize the self, honor the self, bring that forward. And we do have a part in it. For example, the idea of the ego. We have this, I'd like to say, over the millennia, the generational, societal, everything that exists external to us is taking us on a journey that shapes, informs, and contributes. So when we're able to have this mentality of, let's say, inner mind chatter, and that develops over generations, we are now majority taking part to think that this is just a part of who we are. We are meant to have this inner mind chatter. Some restrict that who we are is purely this mental brain. But we're deeper. We have these emotions. We have this drive force. We have this ability to be who we are, unlike any others. That idea that we want to say that we're merely ordinary is such an understatement to allow your potential to be whatever that you automatically restrict it back without allowing it to actually be even able to take form. It's a contradiction to itself. And yes, we have challenges like society and things that cause us trauma and collective opposition that is in place. It's as you described, like if we're in this OS system, we have all this pop-ups going on. We have all these programs running that is bogging down the system. And it really is that, all right, if I'm not a part of this massive system and I'm running my own OS, let's clear it. We don't need half of these things. It's not necessary. We can focus on what we truly need. And then once you start to clear that, what is left behind is that substance, that depth of being that we're meant to bring out into the world. And if you think of it this way, if it is not preserving the past that creates tomorrow, it's exploring the unknown that creates that what if to be, that expansive nature to explore and take beyond what has come before. Because in the present moment, even for myself when I create art, I build off what has come before so that I can take it beyond. It's not meant to recreate it. It's not meant to replicate it and keep it at that standard. It's not a form of preservation. And that's what makes the difference of what art is, a form of creation rather than a restoration. And yes, we can honor the past and we can pull the good out of it. We can take shamanic practices out. We can take all sorts of things that come before us that will only strengthen. But when we move that forward to only take what is of true substance that resonates with the self, that is what's going to provide the road that delves us on a path of what we're meant to experience, what we're meant to be and represent. And that takes a part on the fractal level of contributing to society as much as it contributes to the self. Even one who takes a full-on spiritual path, they might take the spiritual path thinking that that's what meant to be. It's the idea of, all right, I'm going to go sit and meditate forcefully without truly understanding the nature of what it is you wish to explore yourself. But even at that stage of development, taking that action might lead us on the path that it's somewhat meant to be. It's working with what you have. At the same time, if you have a recipe to discover who you are and to be who you are, sometimes it might not go as planned, and it's never meant to go as planned. But as we introduce any detours, we're able to self-correct our course and bring us back on track, or to recognize, to question, and realize, all right, maybe this is not where I'm meant to be. You have the free will option to not only tune back into your own internal navigation, but allow that action to take form through what you wish to be in the world, by action, to let them speak through who you are. And as you've stated, it's not about the validation. You should be able to do what you want to do, and at the end of the day, you should feel that same blessed feeling of how you carry a love for, let's say, an animal or loved one. It is just there. It is there, and you just appreciate it. It fills you with joy because you know this is an authentic aspect of self that you feel blessed and grateful to have experienced and welcomed into your life. That it offers this clarity, this relief to know that you are on the right path, and where you're going is this developmental journey that's really going to not only open up doors, but it at the same time rediscovers what you are carrying within you, the key that you allow yourself to open up that door with.
I don't know. I'd like to think that maybe if we were raised more in a shamanic type of tradition, more connected to nature, whatever it is, that this kind of conversations would be the norm, if you will. It'll be the norm, and this is perhaps maybe at some stage in history where as human beings lived, and with the plant medicines and with the ceremonies and with nature herself and with the ancestors as well, and a very rich life. Like I like the analogy of the ocean. It wasn't obviously just on the surface of the water. It goes into the depths to all the the unknowns, but all the unique sort of. I mean, I think I once heard that there's more species of life or whatever it is in the ocean than there is on the land, and like majority of it is not yet been discovered. So it goes really deep, obviously. And so, in a contrast to that, we're not raised that way. And I think that one of the things that I really find difficult for myself is the amount of fear that other people in my life live by and the limitations that they live by. That's why I find it quite rather exhausting sometimes in a way, by journeying on my own, if you will, or just having to be reminded of what it's like to have bought into the limited mindset of the cultural narrative, let's say, or one's religious sort of dogmas or beliefs or something like that. And then, this is kind of what I sort of mentioned in the comment, in the description of my video, my last video, when I just said that some of us have left the shore, or we've left for the ocean a long time ago. I can't remember exactly, and left many on the shore. We've left many behind, and that's in my own life. What I find, it's like, on the one hand, you know that you're walking towards your own sort of development, your own progress, your own growth, your own self-discovery, and you're moving closer and closer to source. Okay, and whatever it is, but at the same time, on a human level, I'm just bringing this back down to the human level. How many other people that we're surrounded by that are somewhat so still, in where they are at. I mean, you know what I'm saying. And so what I find, coming back again, is that if I have this feeling, and what we're discussing now is that you a lot of the time, and now we get the pleasure and the blessing to share it with one another, and we can compare notes and reflect it back to one another, which is beautiful. And it's like, aha, I feel this is what I'm picking up, and this is what you're picking up. We seem to be on the right track here.
Mm-hmm.
This feels right. This feels true. Let's just say this feels enriching. This feels something of substance and depth, and a sense of timelessness to it, and a sense of the transcendental in it as well. It's this, and that's what we verify for one another in that way, and which is absolutely lovely to do. But I think what I'm trying to say now is that for the individual to be doing this work in today's time, and when they're doing it on their own, in a way, and only briefly have time to correspond and connect with other like-minded individuals, but very infrequently, it is very hard. And even more so, because you don't have the support of the shamanic culture that you come from, or traditions around you. You do it on your own. And even more so, if you're doing it on your own, that means that you're doing it on your own because you've got the ability to do it. And this is what I want to end off on this, on what I'm saying now, is that, like, some people write to me in the comment sections about, like, how difficult their life circumstances, and they don't see a way out. They don't, and they just feel that it was a bum deal. Like, what happened was that they were unconscious for some time and made some very bad, poor life decisions, choices that they're stuck with, and they're rooted and bound by. And now that they're waking up, they're seeing how trapped they are, and they're not sure. Like, I think that they've botched it up, and their lives are, gone to wreck and ruin. And now it's just about just trying to survive each day. And the message that I'd like to give to those people, I mean, in my stronger moments, is saying that no matter how your life may seem, like what you're saying, there's an element of choice, and whereby you can apply a sense of strength. And again, not to maybe fix your whole life up, but to know that this is what you've been given is, as Nietzsche would say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But you are complemented by the difficulties in a very strange way. That the difficulties will be equal to the amount of strength that you have. Okay, And that's where the faith and the hope comes in for us Western folk. I'm saying for other people maybe listening to this, that the idea is that the keys lie within you, the power, the strength lies within you, the direction lies within you. And it doesn't mean that you're going to get it all right. It doesn't mean that you're going to be able to get out of the mess that you're in. That maybe you're going to get over your addiction to, say, chain smoking cigarettes. You may not. You may not, be able to rectify a lost relationship with somebody or whatever. We won't get it all right, but at least you know that your spirit still holds the hope and the and the distance that it's traveled, and that what a survivor, and not just a survivor, but a what's the word I'm looking for? Something to go with a survivor. It's like a warrior, you know. Yeah, that you are, no matter how messy your life may seem. I used to be somebody that very short thinking, very superficial thinking. I was like, well, if your life is, like you're addicted, and let's say you got a bad diet, and you're addicted to all different things, and you marry the wrong person, and your children are dysfunctional, whatever it is, well then you've done a bang up job, and you reap what you sow, and therefore it was like something like that. It was a very sort of unhealthy perspective. And what I'm saying is that I still think that the divinity, and this is what I heard from this channeler guy that I've been listening to. I cannot remember his name, but he's a very, very interesting guy. He was saying that the job is to almost try and see the divinity in every single human being, and that's sort of a quest to do. Now, you've got to do that with boundaries in place. Like, you can't be to the narcissist. Yeah, of course, but I mean, that's a very new age approach. It's just like, see everybody as you see yourself, or as the one, and treat them as no ways. You treat the narcissist next door neighbor or landlord, nicely, and you don't put out boundaries, and you just invite them in with unconditional love and compassion, as somebody commented on one of my videos before, as a way to sort of empower people. That's not the way. Obviously, you've got to have the healthy boundaries in place. But ultimately, that I think what I'm trying to say is this whole, is that the divine, not just spark, but fire, is alive in each one of us. And as soon as we can connect to that, right, it can really give us a lot of meaning and redemption to our suffering. It won't end it, but it'll give it validation, and it will give it meaning, and it will give us some comfort, I'd like to think.
And that's it too, because it really is like a spectrum. And for anyone who's in that fear-based mentality, when you can relate it, you need to understand that there are antidotes. If something is too extreme on the spectrum on the left, you need to balance it on the right to find that middle ground. And I guess here, let's relate it to like a cell. It can be acidic or alkaline. Now, this is just a representation of a spectrum. And if something's acidic, you can develop cancer. You can develop this if it's in an acidic environment. But as soon as you start to develop the alkaline environment to balance it and to provide it that, it is no longer able to take hold. It cannot live in such an environment. So there is an antidote, but it takes a process. It takes a free will to recognize and to course correct. And at the same time, too, when people feel alone, outcasted, it's the state of mind that when you're ahead of the time, you will likely not fit into the society that exists in that day for good reason, because you understand a lot further beyond the horizon than most people are willing to recognize. And that gives us this nature, especially in a world like today, the society where so much has been lost, or so much are lost to themselves, that we feel so separated, and people are dividing themselves, and there is being perpetrated divisions put in place to convince others who are already in their mentality trap to further divide and get stuck in these patterns. But in reality, stepping outside of that is to be the wanderer, is to be the shaman that is needed in the world to bring about change, shifts, to all that. It's by being ahead of the time, we provide the information to be planted like seeds, so that one day that these seeds can be a vast, lush forest. It's not about clearing the state of nature, but to honor and nurture it in a manner that provides our being no differently than the source of light that is able to make that happen. And just with any spectrum, we have fear, we oppose it with courage to overcome our fears, to take us where we need to go. Without that opposition, no matter how grand it may be, it is there for us so that we can get clear with what we want to stand in. And when we are clear, that no longer has power. At the end of the day, when it comes down to consciousness and discovering who we are, it is a form of empowerment that you no longer provide the external world to hold any sort of baggage on you, any sort of power, any sort of demand, because you know who you are and where you stand. You are not able to be pushed to the side or easily guided and directed because you know where you're going, you know where you want to go. If someone is telling you to jump off the bridge, you're not going to just willingly listen. You challenge the idea because it's something that does not sit right with you. It's something that is deep down inside saying, I am not aligned with this, so it's better not to get in this conflicting agenda that will hold me back, that will take away my ability to shine the light I am uniquely meant to be. And that is where we bridge everything together. Because when we see ourselves and honor that, that in its term is the cog in the wheel that's turning. And just like we stated with the ocean, we have this ocean here, but where does that ocean sit? It sits in this body, this earthly body that is always changing tectonically, whether it's receiving the cosmic rays or rays from the sun, which are absorbed inside of it and provide it the momentum to change, move, develop. So does the water of the ocean change and develop to the situations that are always at hand. We are either given the storm to get so worked up, or we're given the calm of a nice sunny day. There's always an experience to be had, and whether we want to see our connection to it, we are part of a collective, but we're expressed uniquely in the way that is almost meant to be, where we can develop certain forms of life that can only be birthed under the circumstances of what we're made up of.
Quote from Oscar Wilde that also reminded me, well, something that you said as well just earlier on now when you just started talking. He says, yes, I am a dreamer. A dreamer is one who can only find his way by moonlight, and his punishment is that he sees the dawn before the rest of the world. And it was kind of like you said it very well. Where you're basically saying people that are ahead of their times, ahead of the times, and that's spot on, hey. And it's not just somebody who's like, maybe I think the artist is generally somebody who's ahead of their time. I also find that artists, they work with the time where they are in history, and depending on the time of history, like now, for example, the artists today, like what you're doing, is incorporating, sort of PC, I don't know what you call it, but your drawings. I'm sure there's a word for it. What's the term?
Well, I see it more like merging the traditional style for my pen and ink art into the digital format without sacrificing the soul of utilizing the hand to actually create it. So it's not just mechanically created, it's created by the human nature, which is why it's imprinted with the soul. And that is the form of creation on its own.
So that's kind of like the artist's way, is that they use the utilities of the time and bring in something from the future. The artist is generally the poet, is usually any creative in a big way. True creativity that's inspiring to others, that a message to others of virtue is what the artist's job is about, is sort of seeing, the last page, the final, not the final page, but towards more the end of the story, and then bringing that forth, if you will, in some kind of way. But that was besides the point. I don't know why when this idea of Morpheus came up in the Matrix. I'm not sure if it's number 2 or 3, but he gives that speech to Zion basically, and he says to Zion, yes, it's true that the machines are headed our way, but he says, I tell you this, and I say it, that I have no fear whatsoever, and we are not afraid, And what I liked about Morpheus was that he was somebody who held the faith when
Yeah.
at the darkest of times, when the community itself, they were just giving up, and all the council was meeting and they were like, okay, well, let's just retreat and try and see how we can save ourselves, and we won't send out any more ships. We won't try our hand at any other possibilities or opportunities, because we've met our match. But the idea of Morpheus was that I think it takes a very strong character to be able to hold the faith that truth will prevail, that freedom will become about, or something or other. And I think that's also a part of what you were saying for somebody who's ahead of their times, because I think when you're stuck in the times that you were in, it's very despairing, right? I mean, that's what I think for a lot of people today. I mean, that's what I just see that are paying attention, let's rather say, even for themselves. I mean, even for myself at times, it looks so dreary. It's like, especially for myself being in South Africa and wow, and all the problems. But every country's got all of its problems. Even family, even on the micro level, everybody's got their problems. I mean, everybody knows someone who's sick and been diagnosed and terrible things. And what I'm saying is that the time is ripe. I mean, it's the perfect grounds for, because it's so dark, in order to know that the dawn is about to break. And I think that's what Terence McKenna's message was. He says that he's very highly positive about the future and not pessimistic at all, And so part of my message I'd like to be, because my faith lingers, I think your faith, I mean, when I've questioned you on certain things about the future and how you feel it might turn out, whatever it is, you're very hopeful about it. You see it in a very positive light, which is really amazing. And sometimes, I mean, I'm not that hopeful. So other times I am.
Well, that's the thing. There's this uniqueness here. What you're bringing up is like very spot on, and then wrap it in with the whole idea of the Morpheus role and what it's giving to this group of individuals who need that courage. Is that if we take a look at the sun shines its light. Now, when we represent astrology, we recognize this as the fire element. Now, the fire element can be seen as Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Aries, that core energy is about taking action, moving forward, taking that first step. Leo is about the courage to stand in that light. And Sagittarius is about seeking the unknown to see the idea of expansion and to bring it in. And that's where the optimism comes into play. So we have this sense of hope, this drive. But when we are the individuals who are aware, who are ahead of the time, there's this kind of request from universe that kind of puts us in this leadership role, whether it's at a local community level of how we interact with others to help them become their best selves, or whether we take larger roles to provide this idea of courage, this hope that allows us to provide an antidote of the fear that exists, to see that this possibility is there. And the thing is, anything that could be seen as this terrible thing that should not exist, there's always a positive aspect to it. For example, technology itself, the way I'm able to utilize it is expanding and allowing the artwork and creation I bring out to grow. It does not sacrifice it as much as someone can use that same technology to get so lost in something like social media and get carried away in the idea of illusion or Maya. This concept itself is how we approach it, because we at one end can recognize that something so terrible can exist, but at the other end, it contributes where it matters. If it wasn't for technology, we wouldn't be able to calculate the sacred geometry that exists in the world, or to calculate the planetary constructs that allows us to better understand astrology, and hence provides itself as a tool to better understand ourselves. So at the same time, we have this right place, right time of these things coming into place to bring us into case. Even if we look at the happenings of today's society, when we're at this huge point, I think astrologically, we're about to enter a nice period of a couple years where we have Saturn and Pluto together in this very structural Capricorn way, where we are going to reinvent and really take a deep dive look at the structures of authority, at the way that the monetary structure is in place, that the way the things that have been for so long. But the thing is, to trigger us to actually go through and face this is a very long-term cycle that had to build up this opposition for us to finally take a stand together as the individual. And it's the accumulations of the individual that provides the shift of future tomorrows, because we carry those virtues for that day. And I think one of the tattoos I actually have, it's a quote from Leonardo da Vinci of, "Who sows virtue reaps honor." So in ourselves, where we honor ourselves and that authentic nature, it is by being able to live in that truth, to not only provide our truest of selves to others, but to do it so in a way where it's the least effort. It's something that just happens. It's the way we dance. We are not thinking, what step do we take or where do we move on the floor? It's feeling where we are and expressing what is right for us, what is being felt, so we can not only honor where we stand, but to use it as a manner to inspire others, to show what is possible, to say this is now something which you can build off of, or you can see is somewhere that you can aim for if you so resonate.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. I'm going to need to start heading off
Yes,
now.
yes.
Yeah.
I noticed it is getting late for you, so.
But I mean that was awesome, man, and it's really it's so nice for me to be able to have a conversation and a dialogue. Like I've even mentioned before, and it's not just a one-way street like what I do with my videos. And again, I really have to just give you credit on how sometimes I just feel like I've got word salad, you know, and I'm just, and I know what I'm kind of saying. It's all a big mess. And how you tie it up in a nice little neat bow, you know. And I mean, I even heard that in your conversation with your girlfriend, Tori, when you had your second podcast, and how you also summed up very nicely what she was saying and refined it, and also added some of your own points to it as well. So it really gives me a great reflection and a deeper, richer sort of perspective of what I'm trying to say. So it's magical, and I really appreciate it. It's priceless for me. Thank you.
I'm honored to hear that, and I think like part of my journey here is really to contribute that. I have a sense where I'm willing to dive in and to truly understand what's being expressed, to tap into that resonance. And whatever makeup I meant to be, if it just comes out in a way that better understands it or may make it tied up in a nice little bow, I mean, not only does it provide that out into the world, but these living conversations we have back and forth, they're both our interactions that allow ourselves to grow, to allow ourselves and ideas and concepts to take it further, where any vocabulary that I end up using is now planted like seeds within yourself, that it can grow and become something of its own unique nature. And that's the beauty of it. It's nature itself. When we watch it grow, it spreads its seeds, and what changes and develops over time is adapting to the environment of what interactions are taking place. And that's the beauty, where we recognize this divine design. And our human experience, it's very much a part of that. And I'm grateful to be able to be here with you and discuss this with you and have that opportunity, because it not only opens doors for others, but I think each of us are very well attracted to this moment, to let it be, to be in our authentic self and show others that it is possible, and we open up those doorways. And I mean, I honestly see yourself as somebody, an individual who stands in that light. And that's what the world needs. So I'm all for cultivating it, and I'm all for co-harmonious supporting the future that we bring out into the world.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, it's just also like what you're saying about from your astrological side. It's like you take you and even from the tarot side as well that you do. It's like you're taking a different kind of language, or the language of the mystical, if you will, and then you putting it into syntax, if you will, or language, basically, or a different way. I mean, it's because the tarot is not really language. It's imagery and all sorts and whatever it is, and whatnot. And so you're interpreting that as well. So you sort of downloading it in a way and then rewriting it with your own sort of unique style, and it's easier that way can be comprehended and appreciated by people. And I mean, it goes to show what a success your efforts on the tarot decks has come in whatever it is. So it's definitely making an impact and a difference in people's lives, and even with these podcasts as well. All right, man. But yeah, so I mean, I look forward to our next correspondence, maybe even as early as next week.
I'm loving being able to have these interactions and whatnot, and I think there's a lot that we can cultivate out of it, so I'm very all for it. But
Okay,
I'll let
excellent.
you get
And
your rest
yeah,
and
thank you.
have some wonderful dreams, man. It's a pleasure to have
Thanks.
such a deep conversation with you. Take it easy,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely. You too, man. All the best. Thank you. Blessings.
No problem. Thank you.